links to the actual pleadings so people can read these things. Sometimes courts issue rulings that aren't particularly instructive. They say you win or you lose, but they don't really tell you. They don't tell actors in the world how to act. And so this court, Second Court of Appeals, is our court, Fort Worth, and it covers the surrounding counties. And they do a bang up job of saying this is why we ruled this way, and it gives clear instruction to other people. So if you want to, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to look at an application and say, is all the information there? And if the information is not there, is it obvious? And that's what the court said. Look, she didn't say that she was running for a trustee of Burleson ISD, but she turned it into the Burleson ISD. The Burleson ISD election administrator is not taking applications for any other school district. It's obvious what the answer is. And so the court pretty clearly, and there's a couple quotes we could quote from the memorandum of opinion, but there are two links on the blog site to the actual opinions, to the judgment and the opinion. And it's worth reading for every office holder or anybody who's running for office. And of course, it's easier if you just do it the first time, then you don't have this problem. So, but then that's okay. But people do make mistakes. And the fact is that all of the new people often have this issue. And I get a whole lot of phone calls at the end of every election cycle, the end of time when you're supposed to turn in your application, where we have problems like this. And so there's one great paragraph in here that I think is worth reading. The district implausibly insists the rejection of Reed's application because its four corners never identified the political subdivision conducting the general election for which she sought ballot access. Reed timely presented herself as a candidate in the administration offices of the district, as she was instructed to do by the notice of filing deadlines published by the district. And I say of the district and by the district because that's italicized. She received, filled out, swore to, and filed her application at the administration offices of the district and in the presence of the assistant elections administrator for the district. She identified herself by office sought and took the oath as a candidate for place one, which was one of the only two places in the board scheduled for the general election by the district. And the assistant elections administrator for the district notarized her oath as a candidate for that office. So the idea that Reed went to all this trouble to file an application for a general election to be conducted for some other political subdivision is simply untenable. So that's the key here, is that they had one other comment that's great.
I got a bunch highlighted.
It's great. It's just a very instructive opinion. It's useful for decision makers to do what's right, And so the bottom line is that the court found that they were basically playing games and they shouldn't do that. And they said, stop that. You're going to hold an election like you're supposed to.
There's
pretty cool.
There's one comment from the judge that I really like, and it says, the district chose to behave unreasonably, insisting that the ballot application process is really a gotcha trap, rather than one designed by the legislature to achieve a just and reasonable result.
It's awesome, right? Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing. You have a good judge who's a good panel. The way this works is you have a panel of three, and so judges sometimes are shy about being identified, but the names are on there and you can read them. So, but they did a bang up job, and they gave an instructive opinion, which is what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to give us opinions that are helpful, and so this will be no doubt cited by other people as they. In Texas, it'll probably be persuasive in other states because it's so well written. So, sometimes when I do a good work, I feel really good about it. I can tell I've done good work. I think the judges involved in this opinion are probably looking to say, we did a good work here. This is what they're supposed to do: reduce chaos, reduce uncertainty. Um, and they did a good job. And it also goes to show you too, we in the conservative world, and I'm just speaking we with a mouse in my pocket, uh, we often say judges aren't supposed to make law. But this is a perfect example of where judges have to fill in the cracks between the laws. The law says that certain things have to be in the application. It doesn't say other things, and so there's some gap filler that says, well, does it have the information to the point where it's substantively good enough, or are we going to have this thing that says if you don't put your middle initial, then you lose? Because it doesn't say you have to have your middle initial, but there might be a spot for it. And you start playing these games. It's helpful to have a set of judges that come through and say, here's the answer. And then if the legislature doesn't like it, then they can come back and they can fix it later. They usually don't because they don't like to do things. But this is a great example of where judges did a good job on a hard issue. It's not obvious sometimes what to do in these situations, but they knocked it out of the park. So I'm very pleased. And now I'll just say that, back in the old days, the famous line is, "What have you given us, Mr. Jefferson?" And he says, "A democracy if you can keep it." Um, Coming up, here's a whole set of elections, and I can just promise you that fewer than 10% are going to vote that could vote.
Sadly.
And so this is the option. Okay, so if you want lousy representation, if you want status quo, if you like things the way they are, then man, you just continue to do nothing. So everybody who hears my voice and can hear it later, need to take the time to vote, because it doesn't matter if I'm the greatest lawyer since sliced bread or since whatever, and Nona Reed is the greatest candidate that ever was. If nobody shows up to vote except the people who have a vested direct interest, which is always the school board people and their lackeys and the sycophants, and the people that work for the administration, they all show up and vote one way, and it's always to the detriment. It's always to the detriment of people who want change. So you got to get out and vote now. You have to take the time. So
Absolutely.
or all of it's for naught.
So, and
I
this
was
is
going
something
to give a shout out to. Does Nona have a website yet?
Nona does not have a website yet. She does have a Facebook page, that is Nona Reed. I'm gonna have to go pull it up really quick because it's been a while since I've gone to look at it. Nona Reed for Burleson ISD, I believe, is her Facebook, but we're gonna put it all out there and really get
There
it
you go.
later today. And since this decision just came down yesterday, and
Oh yeah, yeah. So
I'm very
it's a good time.
I'm just very grateful for you for saying yes to taking this case. I know you've got several other cases going on right now still that are similar to this, correct?
Well, most of them are done at this point, and not all of them actually go to suit. Usually, the last major one that I had, and I don't want to embarrass them, but they're close by and they're big names. And all we had to do is talk about it and show some of the case law, and people will often back down. The real Tiffany, the real problem that I have with all this stuff is they know what the right answer is. They know what it is, and instead of just doing the right thing, too often these people will say, "This person's not going to be able to afford an attorney," and fight about it. They're gonna hang their head and leave. And it's so irritating that I have to get involved. I should not have to get involved on obvious cases. I just, the obvious cases should always settle. And in most of these cases, even when they're obvious, person should not have to come to me and give me money to make quite often somebody I know. Then I've got to call them and say, "Do you want me to really file a lawsuit on this?" And it's embarrassing to me that too often this happens inside my party or people I know in Texas. We're supposed to be straight shooters in Texas. We don't play games. We don't play games with our republic. You show up, you follow the rules, and if you make non-fatal errors on an application, then don't play games. Yeah, just take care of it. That's always the real disappointment to me, that we have to do this kind of thing. There are honest disputes in the world, that require attorneys to fight about things. Absolutely. This should not have been one of them.
Absolutely not.
You
It
got a
was
court of appeals that has to order a special election because you deadbeats decided to take your win and take your marbles and say you're not allowed in our sandbox. It's reprehensible.
mhm. That's a really good way of putting it. You know, they collectively, every single board member voted to not allow her to uh to have her day, on the ballot. And not only
Right.
did they vote to not allow her that, they voted against the voters. They collectively voted to not give the voters the opportunity to decide who they wanted on the school board with them. They took that away from the voters. One of the first people who got up and spoke during that meeting was, city council member, Jimmy Stanford. And Jimmy said it so perfectly. He didn't say anything about being a councilman whatsoever. He came and spoke as a voting citizen, and he said, "Do the right thing. You have a choice to do the right thing. The four corners are covered. The people want to be able to vote on this. Do the right thing." And they chose
Right.
not to do the right thing. And
You
and
know
sadly,
what's
this is gonna cost the school district even more money, because not only did the judge
absolutely.
rule to have, an election, they ruled to have the school board has to pay all attorney's fees and all court
Well,
costs.
they have to pay the costs, right? So it's not the fees, but but it's a big deal. And what's funny about it is, and I talk about this just a little bit in my blog post, but it's you can't always fix this. Had they had the election and you have it going down the road, then it is more difficult to fix. Sometimes the court will come out and say, if you had done something earlier, we could do something about this now. But because the election is moving along, because things are going, it's too late. And so, even sometimes when a candidate is in the right, and this is a cautionary tale for everybody involved, more than once I've had people where we want to either get somebody off the ballot who is a felon or doesn't live in the district, but we wait until the last minute. We can't fix it. Had they had the election, I'm not sure we would have won because these courts are loath to get involved in elections that are going on. So they might have actually. I don't know that we would have won this had the election occurred and the early voting had begun. We might still have won. We might not have. They might have said, "Okay, we're going to wait till after the fact." If somebody else had gotten in, who knows? This was ifs and nuts, candies and buts. But it's the arrogant, it's the bad decision, and then I'm sure they all smiled, joked to themselves, now we can cancel this election and put the lid on this coffin, show her we're not even going to have the election, which is okay if nobody else is running. But I'm sure they thought that they were really smart by doing this way, and it came back to bite them. So they deserve all the umbrage that we can give to them, without a doubt. I lose you?
I'm trying to fix this echo problem, and what I clicked did not work. So we're still
well,
hearing
I hope it's not going out that way.
You're
But
not echoing, but we are echoing. We are echoing. You get to hear me twice, everything I say. Aren't you lucky? But
I don't hear the echo.
that's
So
good. It's something on my end, and whoever had the last show live last night touched something they shouldn't have touched. Um, you know, I, they will call for another election. The sad thing about that is it's going to cost the district a lot of money because they now cannot. There is no election coming up that they can piggyback on with the city. So there's
right, and voters should look at that and say, well, we can talk about one thing or the thing that the school district did right or did wrong, but here they had an opportunity to do the right thing. They took the wrong thing, and now it's costing everybody. What other things is this school board doing with voter money that if we were to look at it, perhaps we wouldn't be appreciative of. What else are they doing? Because I can guarantee you there's other things. One of the issues, ongoing issues with, I call the tiny tyrants, all these people that like to live in their little sandbox, and we don't. We've been here 100 years, and our family has been here for 100 years, and we've been in charge of all these things for a long time, and nobody else gets to come into play. I can appreciate one of the things that I did when I was running for office was you meet these people whose family has been here for 150 years or something, especially in the rural areas, and it's cool, but they have to remember that these areas are it doesn't belong to them. Politics doesn't belong to them, and so when they roll up and say, no, you can't play. This is our sandbox. What other decisions are they making? Traditionally speaking, and I'm pretty harsh on school boards. Uh, they tend to work for the superintendent instead of the other way around. Um, and it's a real problem in most school districts. It can be even a problem in these charter schools. I'm on the board of a charter school. Who sets the agenda, right? The superintendent does. Unless a school board member comes in and says, I want to make this change, I want to put this thing on the agenda, things don't change. So whether it's an offensive social emotional learning program, or it's a diversity program that teaches people that they're oppressors, or whatever the case may be, all of the issues. Uh, the reality is that most superintendents of most school districts kind of rule the show. And I think we're pretty sure that that's what happened here. Is the superintendent was right there, and they said, no, we don't need to accept this application. And then, oh, what a deal! State law allows us to cancel this election. What a convenient time for us. Um, and nobody has the gumption to say maybe that's not the right thing to do. Um, you have to stare down the superintendent, who he may work for you, but too often it sure looks the other way around, and it shouldn't.
That's a really great way of putting it. It's it's still that idea of, I think, the voters and the people and the parents, they forget where they are on the chain of command, and we're at the top of the pyramid, not the bottom. And
Oh, that yeah. Well, and decades ago, I think it happens slowly over decades. The teachers, even and school board administrators, they have this idea that we are the professionals, and you people are just here to take care of these kids while we're busy going home and feeding our own families. But we're the professionals, and you are not. So just shut up and sit down and listen to what we say. And my response to this is fairly simple. Um, I am not as good of a mechanic as my mechanic. I'm not as good of a CPA as my CPA. I am not a dentist, but on all of these cases and all these professionals, I choose the professionals that I use, even though all of them are more qualified than me. I get to choose which dentist I use, who's more qualified than me to tell me what's wrong with my teeth. And this is true in every walk of my life. And so when some school administrator says, well, I know what's going on, what I recall is that whenever I was in elementary school, I'm old now. So when I was in the middle school, we had open classroom concept that allowed me to get distracted by 100 students in 4 different classes instead of just my own. And I remember whole language, which has some good ideas in it, but replaced phonics because some egghead and some ivory tower decided that we needed to not teach the basics. And every once in a while, these eggheads get together and they decide something. And we're all supposed to just swallow it as though we don't know what we're talking about. And my favorite is whenever you talk to a new mother who's putting her kindergarten child, who's, well, not a new mother, a mother of several children, putting her last child in kindergarten, and she'll have some 20-something-year-old gal that's a teacher saying, well, I think that your kid's got XYZ, who doesn't have any kids, has never really dealt with anything. I can have great respect for teachers and still not think that they are sacred, and still not think that everything that they say is pristine. And the school boards can get it wrong. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I know that you know how to control a classroom of 25 kids better than me. I know that you can hire and fire teachers better than I can. But you're making serious errors in the way you run your school right now, because I'm seeing bullying that I shouldn't see. And I see this everywhere. I get contacted once a week by a parent whose kid is being bullied. And because the person doing the bullying, yeah, well, they're a pretty popular person, they get away with it. And this is everywhere from the Trophy Club to Joshua. I'm talking to another person that we're going to probably have to sue a child for defamation, because he's the one that pulled the fire alarm. He said somebody else was the person that pulled the fire alarm, and the school district turns the wrong way and says, well, we don't care about this because we want to protect the one kid. And this goes on and on and on. And all the school districts have to do is do what's right, but they so often don't. And I know I see all the bad stuff. I don't see the good. I often don't see the good stuff. So I always have to kind of caution my comments and say that I may sound a little harsh on school districts for good reason. I know there's a lot of good teachers. I know and I'd say there's a majority of good teachers, the majority of people that are doing the job. But whenever I hear a teacher in Fort Worth ISD saying that they were forcing their kids to put their mask on in order to go to recess, even though they know very well there's an injunction that prevents them from doing that, they say, I don't care, it's my classroom. You get me on a rant, and I think you're letting me go because you're having sound problem over there, and I'm happy to
No,
do that.
I'm letting you rant too, because these are very specific things that are very hot topics for everyone across the state and across the country. And it's important for people to understand what their rights are. And most people don't.
Well, it's just not that hard. And people often say, well, I don't want to vote the right way. Well, find somebody that has your values.
Mm-hmm.
Do the homework once or twice and make sure that you have a friend. Everybody's got a friend. And this is the other thing too. We talked about professionals in our lives. Somebody will say, well, I'm looking for a good dentist. And it's no problem. Everybody that you know will say, I've got a good dentist, you don't go to this good dentist. That people will tell you.
Warren,
and yet we're shy about asking
that's our
friends.
cue for commercial break.
Okay, there you go. So ask your friends if you don't know, and find somebody you trust.
Thanks, Warren. We appreciate you so much. Have an amazing day. God bless.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you. God bless. Take care.
Abnormal reality.
Yeah, Mama. Yep. She sent me a message. My mom did? Yeah, Wednesday night. And she invited me over tomorrow night to watch Titanic and share a bowl of popcorn. I accepted.
You did? That'd be fun.
And she calls it Chaps Only Night. Every Saturday night.
Look.
Miss Dixie,
Look,
how you doing? He said, it's my mom, bro. All right, it's my mom.
I want to hear the answer to the Titanic and popcorn. Go ahead, Mom. What's up?
Oh!
Hi, boys.
Hi,
I just
Mom.
wanted to ask Rocky if he wanted butter on that popcorn or not.
I would
my
rather
God.
have the butter somewhere else, but if popcorn's the only place I can have it, I'll take it.
Jeez,
Hey,
dude.
nobody says I can't roll around in it for a little bit.
All right, Mom.
That is my
Love you.
girl. I love you,
Mom.
Dixie.
Abnormal realities
My mom. Love you.
Dixie.
Bye. I love you too.
with Ron and Rocky. Weekdays, 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. on JoCo Community Radio.
Holy crap.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hot part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
Fast Track Student Default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
JoCo Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 365 on the TuneIn Radio Network. To listen or watch, simply go to tuneinjoco.com to choose where and how. The JoCo Community Radio app is now available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more on jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Patriot Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep, Nona Reed, 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245, and get her in your corner before the next storm hits. It's not echoing now.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
We're not turn that audio off.
Oh, is it still on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyone who's tuning in, like via the app or anything, who was just who was just texting me, is the echo gone?
This was on. Maybe you were hearing
no.
that.
I only
okay.
turned it on to hear what it sounded like on social media. So I think you fixed the problem. I don't know what you touched.
I didn't do anything.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
My mom says no echo on YouTube.
Okay. What? We were just trying
You
to get.
just wanted to see me. That's
We
what it
That's
is.
right.
We just wanted
that was
Ron
our
to join
ploy-
us
Yep.
in studio. You might as well stay now.
Woohoo!
Well, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to what we were talking
I
about.
wasn't. I was trying to get up here.
Well, we were slightly
have some
okay.
good
So we were
news.
slightly distracted, although listening to Warren very, very intensely
Thank
because
God Warren wasn't.
Now-
he wasn't
echoing.
echoing.
Now, the other thing was when he was on, you were getting an echo. So he may have been pushing that audio feed back into you guys.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It could have been, except he was not echoing.
Yeah.
Well, no, he wouldn't have been echoing on his side. If you hear the echo, it's the other person's problem.
I was curious, but it's
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to
If
explain.
he couldn't hear
But-
an echo, then you
Yeah.
weren't echoing.
I'm just glad he wasn't echoing because
Yeah.
he had a
Okay.
lot of good things to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
Good.
He did.
Oh, Mom says no echo on Facebook now.
All
too.
right, see?
Awesome.
All right.
So
Ron appears and everything's fixed. So, Ron, the owner of Romika Designs, and
Yes.
since you're on here, please plug your business.
Yeah, Romika Designs, romikadesigns.com. That's ROMIKA designs.com. We are a laser engraving, laser creation company. Of course, we just had a mad rush for Mother's Day. So I've been working
Did
on
anybody
the
from-
lasers for
did
like
any-
16 hours a day for the last week.
Anybody from my family call you?
Not that I'm aware.
Ah, darn
Rude.
it. Okay. All right,
Hey,
so I'm not getting anything
do
engraved.
you do glass now?
We've been able to do glass.
Oh, I already
Yeah.
talked.
Oh,
I already
you already
texted
said
about
that?
She already hit
champagne
me
Well, I
up.
just
glasses.
figured since he was
Yeah.
on and it was on my head, so I thought.
But we can do metals now, so we can do jewelry and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about the good news.
Okay.
Because it is Thankful Thursday, and we're thankful for all kinds of things. And I'll tell you what I'm thankful for today. I'm thankful for one, Warren Norrid being an amazing attorney
Yes.
and taking Nona's case.
That's
For-
fantastic.
For
the
those that,
school.
for
Yeah.
those that may be listening or tuning in for the first time, Nona had put her hat in the ring to run for school board, Burleson Independent School District's trustee board, place 1, and covered all 4 corners on the application, but put things in not necessarily the right place. But the Texas Secretary of State confirmed it and said, indeed, and recommended to the school board to go ahead and put her name on the ballot. They can't tell them what to do. They can't hold them accountable, but they can make the recommendation and say, considering when you are holding an election, your election administrators and judges all have to go through training that is provided by the Texas Secretary of State,
Right.
and everything is on there. And so even when you read that, when I read the slides, because I wanted to understand where the error may have been fatal, as they call it. But according to the Texas Secretary of State training slides, that their administrator, their elections administrator for the BISD, which is an employee of the BISD, he said, nope, we're not going to allow her name on there.
But why? What's the reason that they're not allowing your name?
They said because she didn't put things in the right place, that it didn't specifically. I can't remember exactly what it said,
Well,
but I don't have it in
So
front
the
of me.
top part, it says name of election. I was already nervous, feel already the tension in the room. I put Nona Reed.
Oh,
first of all, that could be left blank by the Secretary of State. It says that in the slide. It can be left blank and it's no big deal. So that really to me is nothing. But here was the big issue. It's the school district wanted me to put exactly these words. Well, first of all, there's nowhere there that really makes you know what words to say. So this has been a common factor before. So I put place 1, and then in the oath I said school board trustee place 1. Well, they were going, well, we weren't sure she was doing Burleson ISD.
Okay, so
That was one kind of what they were saying.
And the judge, and there's so much highlighted in this because, and I highly recommend reading this.
yes,
If you want to
Warren
understand,
put it on there.
if you want to understand the judge's decision and why and where the legalities fall in line here, I highly recommend reading this because, especially if you're a law student or maybe you're going to paralegal school and you really want to understand the law and the decision in this, it is so eloquently put by the judge himself in multiple places. You couldn't possibly have mistaken what school district you were applying for because you were in the BISD's office, as so stated by the elections administrator himself. And you signed an oath that was notarized by a BISD employee who was also the elections administrator assistant.
Who'd been through training
as well. So nothing was missed. What is amiss about the whole thing is that the school board could have and should have saved money by simply giving her a phone call, of which they have her phone number because she's a former employee and is known personally by several board members and by the superintendent. Could have simply called her and said, hey, listen, can you come fix your application really quick? You put things in just the wrong place and easily fixable.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. They chose instead to hire outside counsel and inform her that way 5 days later that they weren't accepting it. And that's the direction they went. And the question is why? And then in the board, in the school board meeting, people got up and spoke on behalf of themselves. They got up and spoke and said, do the right thing. Put her name on there. We don't want you to take away our right to vote.
Correct.
And that's what they did. And so it's it's cherry picking who they want on the school board, right? They didn't come to her and say, hey, Nona, there's a seat coming open possibly. We'd love for you to serve. Put your name in. Or there's an open seat. Let's place someone in there. I've seen that happen. And then, they have to get elected into that seat afterwards if a seat comes open.
Correct.
That can happen. So this isn't the case. And the judge, oh man, I mean, this is
a good read.
Whose case is this? Yours?
This
That's
is her
mine.
case, and this is the decision. It's 23 pages.
And Warren has put it on his page. He tagged me, but it has this and the judgment. So, I mean, anybody can go and read it.
So this is one of the comments from the judge. Is there a remedy? The district argues that Reed has filed her petition for mandamus far too late to appear on the ballot for the May 7th election. We agree. The time for mailing absentee ballots began on March 23rd. So there's things where the judge says, we agree with that. That's why you're going to hold a special election. Now which is going to cost them a lot of money because there is no city election to piggyback off now.
Yeah.
So now they got to spend money. And I'm kind of repeating myself, but I was echoing in the first half. So, although I was repeating myself involuntarily in the first half,
Gotcha.
Now I'm just repeating myself. So they will have to have a special board meeting and choose an election date and go from there. And they got to follow all the rules that go along with that. And she's already an applicant.
Is that what the ultimate answer was? Is that they're going to hold a special?
Yes, they have to hold a special election.
Wow.
With her name.
On the ballot.
On the ballot.
Not a choice.
Not a choice.
Interesting.
And yes, and I just, I'm so impressed with this judge. This is the kind of case law, and I I kind of
So
and
good.
and and highlight stuff. He's reading it as an attorney, going, this is good stuff. Like, this is amazing. He's like, oh my gosh, and he's laughing, right? He's like giddy reading it because he's like, this is just good law. This is the kind of stuff that's going to. And I think Warren, when Warren was talking to us in the first half, I think he was being very humble, and so I'm gonna say it for him because it's something another attorney has already read
Right.
and said this is going to be used in case law forever. Forever. So now, not only will Nona's name be on the ballot and she'll be known for running for office and for, you know, fighting for her right to run, she's now going to be known all over the place because this is going to be
Well,
used.
this will be used as precedent.
Yes,
Right.
it'll be
Yeah.
used as
Mhm.
precedent.
Yeah.
It may very well end up being used in law school too.
Really?
So Todd has some case law where they use it in law school, and it's also multiple precedents. One's not very good.
Yeah.
It's one that he actually lost, but it was a ridiculous loss. It was a it was a it was an appellate case for a medical malpractice suit that he never should have lost, and the judge wouldn't even see the attorneys in person and hear them. He read it and just denied the appeal. And this was a woman who had had a document signed in a hospital that said, under no circumstances are you to stick that needle in my neck. And the anesthesiologist played God and decided to go ahead and stick that needle in her neck, and he paralyzed her. Yeah.
Wow.
And so Todd won. They appealed, and he ended up losing in the appeal.
Oh,
So yeah, absolutely ridiculous, right? So well, that's tort reform for you.
right.
And this was before tort reform happened. Actually, this is one of the cases before tort reform. So that case is used as precedence, and there's another one too. Anyway, so this will be that kind of case. This is, and it's just there's things like this that the judge said. We therefore have no confidence that the board will not simply appoint the incumbent place one member in a bid to achieve through quasi-legal means that the district attempted to do through its rejection of Reed's ballot application. Accordingly, we enjoin the district from certifying the incumbent place one candidate as unopposed for reelection and from declaring him reelected to a new term, and further order the district to conduct a special election to fill the vacancy results. It's really amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to your run,
Thank you.
and I believe you will win. And I just pray there's nothing more important than people getting out to vote.
Right.
May 7th is election day here for so many different things. For Burleson, we have the bond
Mhm.
election going on, and you'll be voting for that at the senior center
Mhm.
in the back room on the 7th, and then do that, and then before or after, you then need to go to your normal polling place on
You
election
can
day,
look
May
it up in
7th.
Johnson County.
Yeah.
In Johnson County or Tarrant County, depending on where or whatever county you're in here in Texas, because you have 2 propositions to vote for.
Yes, it's a state thing. So no matter where you live in Texas, you really need to be looking into this and going and voting on it.
And this is something that the school district should be pushing for, because it's to
Right.
lower your property taxes based on two different things. I'm trying to,
But nothing's even been mentioned, and I'm seeing that across the board in Johnson County.
Now they have
So-
had good voter turnout, because I
Yeah.
did talk to them. I early voted the other
Yes.
day, and I did vote yes to Prop 1 and Prop 2 because I want my property taxes lowered.
Mhm.
And so if you're not familiar with this and you want to understand what you're voting for, I'm not going to read you the jargon that's on the actual ballot, because it's not going to explain to you what you're really voting for. So share this information. I'm going to put the link in comments as well. So if you're watching or listening and then you want to go back and get the link, it'll be in the comments for this show on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Homeowners who are, this is Prop 1. Homeowners who are disabled or 65 years and older can qualify for having school district property taxes capped or frozen. But when lawmakers in 2019 passed legislation to offset rising property values with lower school district tax rates for all homeowners, those adjustments did not account for elderly and disabled homeowners whose property taxes were already frozen. Under Prop 1, those homeowners could qualify for those additional reductions in 2023 if the measure passes. And that's a quote from Senator Paul Betancourt. He's a Houston Republican who wrote the legislation calling for the constitutional amendment. The change would lower those homeowners' property taxes further, but would not eliminate their property tax cap. The frozen value unfreezes and then refreezes lower each year to catch up. So you want to vote yes for Prop 1. I don't know why anybody would not want to vote yes for Prop 1, right?
Right.
Prop 2, simply, this language is a lot, it's not too bad. So the ballot language is the Constitution.
People.
Yes. The constitutional amendment increasing the amount of residents' homestead exemption from ad valorem taxation for public school purposes from $25,000 to $40,000. Now, when you first look at that, you may read it as, oh my gosh, they're increasing.
Correct.
That's not what they're doing. So this is what it means. Currently, homeowners let me try that again. Homeowners can subtract $25,000 from their home's value before school tax rates are levied. Proposition 2 would increase that deduction to $40,000. So now you can deduct that $40,000 from your home value before your rate is set. Okay.
Positive thing.
Does this impact our schools? Nope. If the measure passes, the state would reimburse school districts for the lost property taxed revenue, so schools would not lose funding. So that's so important to know. You're not taking anything away from the schools by doing this. The state is going to reimburse it. It's known as recapture. It's meant to support districts with lower property values. That's so important.
Right.
So important. So, let me explain that part that I just said. School districts with higher property wealth per student would also see lower payments into a state fund known as recapture. Just wanted to explain that. Meant to support districts with lower property values. So, win-win.
Right.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
It's a win-win. Now, as commentation would say, and opinions, is that, will the state find somewhere else to hit us in the gut to make up for that funding? Most likely. Could come in a sales tax increase. Who knows? So, but let's take it where we can get it in the meanwhile.
Right.
So you want to get over to your, if you're in the city of Burleson, you want to go to the Senior Citizen Center back room to vote for or against the bond, whichever you choose. And then head over to your normal polling location and vote yes for these propositions. I mean,
it's real quick.
I don't want to tell anybody how to vote, but I don't know why you wouldn't vote
any
yes
other
for these two
way.
propositions to lower property taxes for the
And
elderly and for ourselves.
Yeah, they're pretty efficient over there at the Senior Citizen Center. I know we walked in and we're out.
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't know because I don't get to vote in the
Yeah.
city. But as far as going to early voting at the sub courthouse, I was in and out in 4 minutes, but I was also already informed. I already knew
What you were doing.
what I was doing.
I didn't even sit down. I just checked it and then
Same.
But,
Same. And I mean, they just kind of blew through that. So that was really good.
Yeah.
And then of course, if you're not in Burleson, if you're in Joshua, you have on May 7th, your Joshua School Bond. You have school board.
You have Joshua School Board. You have the Joshua School Board bond, and they don't really have. I mean, there is some city, but I don't think there's any candidates running against each other. So there are some seats, but so they'll be getting a new mayor and stuff.
Yes, and Cleburne. We have city council, school board.
Yes,
Let me tell
both
you,
of you.
we have had some fantastic
Amazing
candidates at this
yes.
at this table, and I'm super impressed with Ginger. And I'm just gonna
And
if I live
Venus,
Venus as well,
oh,
yes.
what was her name? Amber? Was it
Yes.
Amber?
Mhm.
Amber was great too. She's actually been on the board before and had stepped down for personal reasons and got
Are
that
they
all taken care of.
are
And
they
is
Cleburne?
No,
one
they're
is Cleburne. Ginger's Cleburne.
Ginger's Cleburne, and I will tell you, I was so impressed with her.
She's great.
If there is someone, if I lived in Cleburne, that is who I would
Right.
vote for personally.
Mhm.
She was a plethora of knowledge. She talks and meets with teachers on the daily because that's what her day job is.
Yes.
She's somewhat of an educator if you want to put it like
Yes.
that, but man, she knows what she's talking about.
And
She'd
then
make a
we
great
had
and
some godly ones on too. That was great.
I want to add this. The Cleburne, one of the challenges with the Cleburne ISD is that there is no diversity on that board. They are all white.
Yeah.
And you have a high Hispanic community
Huge
in Johnson
there.
County and in Cleburne specifically, and there's no one there to specifically represent them. And we need diversity. I mean, we live in a very diverse
Mhm.
world, and we have to have that representation at
Yes.
different levels of government and in other elected positions. That diversity is very
Mhm.
important.
Well, that voice needs to be there.
Yes, it
Right.
does. It does. I mean, when
And
you
she can be that voice for them.
Mhm.
and when you're talking
Yeah.
about a Hispanic community, I mean, how many people do you know whose kids are in school but the parents do not speak English?
Right. Uh-huh.
And so you have to be able to have someone there who can listen to the concerns of the constituents who don't speak English.
Mhm.
And so I think that's also, I think that's important. It's another important reason. I mean, when you're looking, I would also be looking at the candidates who are rerunning. I know that the position she's running for on the Cleburne ISD is I can't remember the candidate's
Anna
name that she's
King.
running against, but
think it
she
is.
and I have to say, I've put in records requests and I have not received it yet,
Hmm.
because she stepped down off the board
Right.
and then somehow reappeared on the board, but there was no other election. So I don't know if they weren't able to find someone to fill it or if somebody else filled it and then she was reappointed. So she has to rerun. And my question is this: if you step down once, and it was within a 2-year period, if I
Mhm.
recall correctly, why are you running again? I would have liked to have asked her that question, but we didn't get any response. So
Mhm.
unfortunately, there's actually several school board incumbents
Mhm.
who did not respond.
Right.
They really just did not want to answer any questions, and I think that that's cause for concern. If
Mhm.
you don't want to talk to your constituents and the voters, what are you doing in an elected position?
That's true. Politics is kind of a crappy thing, and you know, I hate to talk about it because I talk about it almost every day on our show.
Yes, I listen to you guys in the morning,
But
and you can hear that. By the way, you can hear
Yeah.
my Mojo 50 on air on JoCo Community Radio starting at 7 a.m.
Central. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I say Central. That's your listening audience is Central, but my listening audience is worldwide. So that's why I always use the
well,
time
we're
zones.
worldwide as well.
Well, you are.
And I mean, my cousin's listening from. She's in Oregon.
Yep.
She's in Oregon right now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
7 a.m. Central is when our show
Yeah.
starts.
It's important to say. It is important to say
Yeah.
that because we do have listeners all
Yeah.
over.
But yeah, it's a political talk station, and it's there's some back and forth because not everybody that's on our show leans the same direction,
Mhm.
if you will. So it gets good sometimes,
But it's informative.
and we throw comedy into it because
That's where I was
Right.
going to go.
if you
Yeah.
don't put comedy as a part of it, politics is just a drab pain in the butt.
And
It
he's
is.
funny.
Yeah.
Brad's
But
funny,
so are
yeah.
you. Okay, so
Yeah.
are you, and you don't
So-
like you're way more humble because you don't like to
Right.
talk about yourself, but you are funny.
You are.
You're
With
funny.
him, you have to be quick witted. And so sometimes I'll throw the jabs out there, but I enjoy it. It's fun. It's a good wake me up for me every morning. I get up, get my coffee, go upstairs, show prep a little bit, and then off we go, and it's a live show. So you never really know what's going to happen.
Well, I always know when I'm too close to the top of the hour and I haven't left yet. When I hear it's last call,
yeah.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still
Yeah.
I'm still in the house. And then talk about abnormal realities too.
So Abnormal Realities is my second show that we have. That is on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central. It is a paranormal alternative talk show. We talk about ghosts, Bigfoot, psychics, you name it. I mean, but it's absolutely non-political on purpose, because quite honestly, we just want people to have an end of their day
Mm-hmm.
where they haven't they've been listening to the news and politics all day.
Right.
We just want them to relax.
Can I say a few things real quick before we leave?
Yes.
I just want to say I really appreciate Warren Nord for everything he did, because first of all, everything I read that he sent and did was just excellent. He's a great lawyer, and I'm proud that he was my lawyer. I also want to thank everyone who's rooted me on by text, by phone calls, by just being there and hugging me. And I'm looking forward to being able to at least have my name on the ballot to serve this community,
Serve it.
because that's
Yep.
what I'm really wanting to do, is serve.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Be thankful today. Tell someone you're thankful for them. God bless, and happy Mother's Day.
Happy
Happy
Mother's
Mother's
Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, JoCo Community Radio.